Get out of my lobby. This place isn't for your kind. The sentence landed like a rule, not a mistake, delivered with the crisp confidence of someone who believed in his own authority. Robert, manager of the Horizon Grand Hotel in downtown Seattle, stood behind the marble counter, arms crossed, every word sharp enough to carry through the lobby. Guests froze. The air stiffened. Across from him stood Patricia, plain black t-shirt, fitted jeans, quiet posture. No assistant, no designer bag. She'd been here before. If not this hotel, then this moment. Calm eyes, steady breath, steps measured. Robert didn't lower his voice. He made a scene. The two clerks beside him, Joseph and Mark, mirrored his stance. They didn't greet her. They studied her. Joseph's smile was tight, professional on the surface, brittle underneath. Mark's folded arms said enough. "I have a reservation," Patricia said, her tone even. "Penthouse suite. Carter." Robert's eyebrow arched. "That's a very high-tier room. Are you sure you booked the right hotel?" She didn't rise to it, just slid her ID and credit card across the counter. He picked them up gingerly like they might stain. "Strange," he muttered. "Looks suspicious." Joseph pressed a button. Her voice carried over the intercom. "Security, we may have an unauthorized guest attempting access to a premium suite. Possibly fraudulent." Patricia didn't flinch. "I'm not here for trouble," she said. "Just my room." Mark scoffed. "Happens all the time. Fancy cards, fake names, hoping we won't check." Across the lobby, a travel blogger, Sophie Lynn, lifted her phone. "I'm filming this," she whispered to her friend, then louder. "People need to see this." Her companion began live streaming, narrating as if documenting evidence. Betty, the concierge nearby, looked up. Her eyes met Patricia's for a heartbeat, an exchange of recognition, or maybe warning. She started forward, but Robert's glare stopped her mid-step. "She doesn't belong here," he said again, louder now. Patricia took out her phone and tapped once. On another floor, her assistant Margaret answered instantly. "It's happening," Patricia murmured. "The system's ready," Margaret replied. Robert was still flipping her card between his fingers. "We've seen this scam before," he said for everyone to hear. "Fake bookings, stolen cards, but not this time." He turned to Mark. "Hold this." What he didn't know was that in 9 minutes, the woman he tried to humiliate would be his boss, and the lobby he ruled over would fall silent for a very different reason. Mark grabbed the card with visible satisfaction and strode to a metal cabinet. The drawer screeched open to reveal a small steel safe. He slipped the card inside, slammed the door shut, and smirked. "You're done here." From across the lobby, Sophie's voice rose over the hum of startled guests. "They just took her card." Jacob, still filming, stepped closer. "That's theft," he said. "That's not policy." Patricia stayed still. Her tone didn't rise. "You're going to regret this." Her mind flickered back to another lobby years ago, Atlanta, age 24, after a red-eye flight and a string of meetings. She'd walked into a boutique hotel in sweats, reservation confirmed, exhaustion heavy in her shoulders. The man at the counter looked her over and said, "You don't look like someone who'd stay here." The system was down, he'd told her. She slept in her car. By sunrise, she was sketching a business plan that would one day redefine her entire field. Now, standing in a hotel under her own brand, the scene replayed. Different faces, same script. Robert leaned forward, voice stiff with practiced authority. "Your reservation's canceled. We don't tolerate deception. You're holding up real guests." Patricia tilted her head. "You mean the ones watching this right now?" She gestured toward the phones raised around them. Guests had stopped pretending not to see. Whispers spread. Discomfort rippled through the air. Joseph took a step closer. "You need to leave, now." "Are you sure?" Patricia asked. Joseph's voice sharpened. "Positive, or we'll call the authorities." Robert smirked. "Go ahead, make a scene. It won't end well for you." Patricia's eyes didn't waver. "That's the last time you speak to me like that." Betty finally broke her silence. "She's right. I saw her name in the system this morning. The reservation's valid. Robert snapped toward her. One more word and you're gone too. Patricia lifted her phone. Margaret, log this moment. Lock the timestamps. Logged, Margaret replied. System's ready. Jacob pointed to the safe's glass window. It says Carter VIP. It's real. She's real. Robert scoffed. Anyone can fake a card. People like her. Patricia cut him off. Finish that sentence. He couldn't. The crowd's silence pressed down like judgment itself. Patricia stepped forward, her calm like steel. You've just made the worst mistake of your professional life. Robert's smirk faltered. You think so? No, she said quietly. I know so. The lobby felt suspended, the kind of stillness before a storm. Mark, still trying to perform authority, lifted a small silver key. This card is now company property, he announced, voice trembling under false confidence. You're not getting it back until the bank verifies it. He grinned and locked the safe again. The metallic click echoed like a challenge. Patricia didn't react. Her silence drew the room tighter, made every breath audible. Robert tried one last threat. Walk out now, or we'll make that choice for you. Joseph straightened her blazer, stepped from behind the desk, and reached for Patricia's arm. The moment froze, the edge between arrogance and awakening. You've been warned, Joseph said. It's time for you to leave. Her hand touched Patricia's arm, just a brief contact, but it cracked the air like glass. The lobby froze. Gasps, phones raised. Sophie's camera caught the moment instantly. She just grabbed her, she shouted, her fingers already moving across the screen. Within seconds, the clip hit Reddit. This is happening live at Horizon Grand. Jacob's stream swelled past 100 viewers. The comment feed flooded with disbelief. Betty broke from behind the counter. Her voice trembled, but her words were clean and hard. You can't touch a guest. Her reservation is valid. Joseph spun toward her. Stay out of this if you want your job. But Betty didn't move away. She stepped closer to Patricia. I won't lie for you, she said, eyes locked on Robert. That stripped away the last of his restraint. She's trying to scam us, he hissed. People like her always think they can play the system. The words dripped with something uglier than policy. Around them, a gray-haired woman whispered, I can't believe what I'm hearing. A man in a navy suit leaned toward Jacob's phone. You getting all this? All of it, Jacob said. Patricia stood in the center, still as stone. Then quietly, Margaret, escalate the internal system. Begin audit documentation. Every word, every second. Understood, Margaret replied through the phone. Time-stamped and recorded. Do you want Donna on standby? Give me one more minute, Patricia said. Mark slammed his palms on the desk. You're a fraud. Think that card gets you in here? Go back to wherever you came from. Murmurs rippled through the lobby. Betty stepped forward until she stood shoulder to shoulder with Patricia. I've worked here 3 years, she said. Every time a guest like her walks in, confident, alone, dressed down, you treat them like criminals. You call it policy, but it's not. It's you. Robert's jaw clenched. Enough, I want her out, or I'll have security escort both of you. Joseph jumped in, voice brittle. She refused to provide valid ID. This is a breach. I'm reporting it. But the current had already shifted. Jacob turned his camera toward his own face. Just so we're clear, he said, voice steady. We're watching hotel staff harass a guest who gave her name, card, and ID. Now they're trying to drag her out. This isn't bad service. It's discrimination. Patricia turned to Mark. Return my card. He leaned forward, sneering. Or what? She didn't blink. Or you'll be locked out of the Horizon system for life. No employment, no references, no appeal. Joseph laughed. You don't speak for Horizon. Betty's answer came sharp and certain. She does, Robert snapped. You're out of line, Betty. You don't even know who she is. From the edge of the crowd, Sophie's voice cut in. Oh, she does, she said, camera steady. We all do. She turned the lens back toward Patricia. The truth was seconds away. Look at her, someone whispered. Look how calm she is. That's not someone begging for service. That's someone letting them bury themselves. Patricia's tone didn't rise. Mark, she said quietly, one last chance. For the first time, Mark hesitated. Robert jumped in, desperate. This isn't personal, it's protocol. But the lobby had already turned. Sophie's clip was spreading, Jacob's live feed climbing by the second. Guests murmured, shifting uneasily. I've stayed here for years, a man said. Never again. A young woman with a suitcase leaned toward Betty. Is she really who I think she is? Betty didn't answer. She didn't need to. Then came the break. Betty stepped forward, voice rising over the crowd. This isn't the first time Robert's ignored complaints like this. He's been warned. I logged 3 reports last month, 2 from solo women of color. All dismissed. Robert's face flushed. That's a lie. Jacob swung his camera toward him. You sure about that? Patricia turned, scanning the faces around her. Every phone was raised now, lenses fixed on the desk. Your time running this place unchecked, she said evenly, is over. Robert lunged for control. Fine, you won't leave. I'll call the cops myself. Patricia smiled, soft but certain. Please do. Something flickered in his eyes then. Realization, maybe, that the ground beneath him had shifted. The power he'd assumed was his alone now belonged to the room. Guests began to move quietly at first. A woman rolled her suitcase between Patricia and the desk. A man unplugged his charger and stepped beside Betty. Small gestures, but enough to redraw the line. They're protecting her now, Jacob said to the stream, voice almost reverent. Patricia took a step forward. This lobby, she said, her voice low, deliberate, belongs to me. The words fell like truth, not threat. Mark's smirk dissolved. Joseph stared at the floor. Robert blinked as if the marble itself had tilted beneath him. Then came the question the room didn't need to ask aloud. What would you do if someone tried to push you out of a place you built? Robert's voice cracked the silence. Throw her out now. His shout echoed against the walls, brittle, hollow. Authority without weight. Phones lifted higher. Whispers turned to open protest. Yet Robert doubled down. She's trespassing. She's a liar. He slammed a hand on the intercom. Mark's voice boomed through the speakers. Attention all staff. Unauthorized individual in the lobby. Do not engage. Repeat, do not engage. Fraud alert. When the announcement ended, silence fell heavy and thick. Patricia didn't flinch, but the guests did. She's not a fraud, Sophie shouted from the corner. We're recording everything. Her voice trembled with outrage, not fear. Jacob's view count passed 2,000. Comments poured in. This is theft. Unbelievable. In a luxury hotel? A mother pulled her daughter back from the check-in line. They're going to regret this, she murmured. Joseph, still clinging to Robert's command, grabbed Patricia's arm again, tugging hard. Let's go. You're embarrassing yourself. And that's when Betty stepped between them. Betty, the youngest employee in the room, stepped forward until her shoulder brushed Patricia's. Touch her again, and we'll have a bigger problem, she said, her voice cutting clean through the lobby. Joseph's hand froze midair. You're done here, she spat. Then fire me, Betty shot back, not blinking. But keep your hands to yourself. Robert stormed closer, his temper spilling into every step. Do you even know who this woman is? He barked. She's a fraud. Look at her. Jeans, sneakers, a t-shirt. Does that look like a penthouse guest to you? Patricia's voice was soft enough to make him lean in. You keep saying fraud like it'll erase what you just did. She moved forward, one deliberate step. The gap between them vanished, so did his confidence. Her memory flashed. Los Angeles, age 29? A hotel lobby not unlike this one. Navy suit, polished shoes, a badge around her neck from a hospitality conference. The man behind the counter looked from her face to her ID and back again. This can't be you, he'd said. 2 hours later, she was still waiting for verification, watching 3 white executives get keys handed over without question. That night, she wrote a single line in her notebook. No guest should ever be profiled. That line became company policy, and now the test of that promise stood in front of her. "Call security," Robert ordered. His voice cracked. Mark hovered near the hallway, unwilling to move. The phones filming them multiplied. Sophie's lens drifted from clerk to clerk, catching guilt in real time. Jacob turned to a man nearby. "What are you seeing here?" The man didn't hesitate. Someone being thrown out of a place that clearly belongs to her. Robert spun toward him. "That's defamation. She hasn't proved anything." Patricia lifted her phone slightly. "Would proof help?" "Show them," Jacob said. But Patricia didn't flash credentials. She turned to Betty instead. "Check the system. Whose name is attached to the penthouse suite?" Betty glanced at her monitor. "Carter, checked in remotely." "And the tag?" Betty looked up. "Executive override. Owner clearance." The lobby went still. You could hear the sound of someone's suitcase wheel click against the tile. Robert's voice wavered. "She could have faked that. Hacked it, maybe." Sophie barked a laugh. "Right, because people hack hotel databases just to walk into a lobby with 2,000 witnesses?" Joseph's color drained. Mark spoke carefully. "Greg, I put her card in the safe because you said to. What if we were wrong?" Patricia turned to him. "You weren't misled. You made a choice. You stole from me." Mark opened his mouth, but no sound came. Then movement. A woman with a floral scarf stepped in front of Patricia, hands planted firmly at her sides. "You're not touching her again." Another guest joined her. Then another, a woman pushing a stroller. Within seconds, a half circle formed, a human wall standing between Patricia and the people who'd tried to push her out. Robert stood behind the counter, smaller now, trapped in the silence he'd created. Patricia looked at the guests shielding her. Her voice came low, steady. "This is what it looks like," she said, "when people stop being silent." Jacob's camera tilted toward the crowd. "They're standing with her," he said quietly. "And I don't think they're moving." Robert's voice tore through the noise, ragged and desperate. "She's fooling all of you," he shouted. "You're being played." But Mark, still gripping the intercom microphone, leaned in and muttered something meant for Robert alone. Too quiet, except the speakers carried every word. She owns this place, doesn't she?" The sentence floated over the lobby like smoke that refused to clear. Sophie swung her phone toward Patricia, eyes wide. "Is that true?" she asked. Betty answered before Patricia could speak. "It is." The reaction was instant. Gasps, disbelief, murmurs spreading like ripples. A man near the lounge whispered, "Wait, this is her hotel?" Joseph turned toward Robert, pale. "You said she was lying?" Robert's mouth opened, but no sound followed. Jacob, still streaming, faced the camera. "You're watching the moment everything changes." Patricia walked forward, past Betty, past the semicircle of guests, to the desk where Robert stood frozen. "You tried to throw me out," she said evenly. "You accused me of fraud. You called me a thief. You did all of it right here, in my own lobby." Robert's throat worked, but no words came. A voice broke through from Patricia's phone. Margaret, steady and precise. "Patricia, Donna's ready. Should I patch her in?" Patricia didn't look away from Robert. "Do it." One tap, and Donna's voice filled the air. Professional, calm, final. "Authorization queue prepared. Standing by." Patricia took a breath. Effective immediately. Terminate Robert, Joseph, and Mark. Remove access to Horizon systems. Freeze all credentials. File today's incident for legal review. A quiet beat, then Donna's reply. "Confirmed. Executing now." The lobby lights seemed to hold their breath. Then, buzz. Robert's access badge flashed red. So did Joseph's, Mark's. In seconds, all three were locked out, their names erased from the system in real time. No yelling, no scene. Just a clean reversal of power. Swift, visible, absolute. Guests stood silent, watching the consequence unfold. It wasn't anger anymore, it was awe. In less than 10 minutes, the woman they'd seen demeaned had dismantled the hierarchy that allowed it. Robert looked down at his badge like it had betrayed him. Mark's face blanched. Joseph gripped the counter edge, knuckles white, as if holding on could keep her job from slipping away. The lobby felt different now. The stage of humiliation had turned into proof of accountability. Betty stood beside Patricia, chin lifted. "They've been removed," she said clearly so every witness could hear. "They don't represent Horizon any longer." Robert's restraint snapped. "This is illegal," he barked. This isn't how hotels work." He turned to Joseph. "Call corporate. Get someone on the line." Joseph checked her phone with trembling hands. "I can't. It's blocked. The system locked me out." Her voice cracked. "Everything's gone." Mark tried edging toward the safe, but Betty's voice stopped him cold. "Step back," she commanded. "You're not authorized to touch guest property." He froze, retreating without argument. Robert's anger curdled into humiliation. "You think this spectacle makes you a leader?" he spat. "You tricked everyone. You made a mockery of us. You'll regret this. You'll be sued." But even he heard it, the wobble in his own voice, the sound of a man who'd already lost. Patricia tilted her head slightly, the calm unbroken. "You think leadership means hiding mistakes?" she said. "Or controlling the narrative?" The silence that followed was heavier than his shouting. Patricia turned toward the crowd, motioning gently with her hand. "Leadership," she said, "is when voices that were ignored finally get heard." The lobby answered her. A woman near the check-in line spoke first, her voice trembling but fierce. "You never took my complaint seriously last spring. I emailed about what happened at check-in, and you replied. Dismissed it like it didn't matter." Robert's head snapped in her direction, recognition flashing across his face before he looked away. Another voice rose from the back. "I was double charged for a room. No response until I threatened a lawsuit." Then a man behind the lounge chairs. "I asked for an ADA accessible room. Was told none were available. Then I watched someone else get one." The noise swelled, wave after wave of long-ignored grievances. Years of silence cracking open at once. Betty stepped forward, her voice no longer tentative. "I logged 3 reports in the last 2 months about discrimination at the front desk," she said. "All dismissed. Robert signed off on everyone." Joseph edged backward until she hit the wall, panic chasing her composure. "Greg, they're turning on us," she whispered. "They're just angry," Robert muttered. "It'll pass." It didn't. It gathered force. Jacob swept his camera slowly across the crowd. "This," he said to his viewers, "is what accountability looks like. The people finally speaking." Then Sophie Lynn lifted her phone. "It's already viral," she said. The Reddit post filled the screen. Hundreds of comments, dozens of reposts, the clip of Mark declaring, "This card is now company property." Below it, Joseph grabbing Patricia's arm, Robert shouting, "People like her don't belong here." "It's everywhere now," Sophie added quietly. "Everyone's seeing it," Robert snapped. He lunged forward, shouting, "Delete that! It's private property." 2 guests stepped between him and Sophie. One, a man with reading glasses, spoke evenly. "You don't get to erase this." Beside him, an older woman with a floral shawl held up her phone. "Your face is already online," she said. "Maybe think twice before making threats." That was the breaking point. Joseph turned toward Patricia, voice shaking. "I didn't know. I didn't mean for it to go this far." Patricia met her eyes steady. "You did know. You watched it happen, and said nothing." Robert's fury drained into something smaller. He looked at her defeated. "Why didn't you just say who you were?" he asked hoarsely. "You set us up." Patricia blinked once. "No, I gave you the chance to treat me like anyone else. You chose what kind of people you'd be." Her phone chimed again. Margaret's voice filled the room. Patricia, the board has authorized full incident response. Donna's ready. Patricia scanned the lobby. The guests, the phones, the silence that waited for her next move. Patch her through. Donna's voice came over the speaker, crisp and final. Effective immediately, Robert, Joseph, and Mark. Your employment with Horizon Hospitality Group is terminated. Access revoked. Legal filings are in progress. Miss Carter will oversee recovery. Guests, please note, new leadership will be addressing your concerns shortly. The words hit with the weight of justice finally enforced. Mark tried once more. This is madness. We built this place. Patricia's gaze didn't waver. You built nothing. You guarded the door and kept out the people we promised to serve. She turned to Betty. Open the safe, please. Betty stepped to the cabinet, typed a new code, and opened it. Inside lay Patricia's black card, untouched. She lifted it carefully, placed it in Patricia's hand, and met her eyes. No words, just quiet respect shining through the tears. The first sound was a single pair of hands, then another. One by one, the guests began to clap. Quietly, deliberately. Not celebration, not chaos. Recognition. The sound of something long overdue. Patricia stood still, letting it settle before she spoke. Her voice carried calm, not fury. This was never just about me, she said. It's about every guest who was told their presence was inconvenient. Every complaint that vanished into silence. Every policy used as a weapon instead of protection. That ends here. Behind her, Robert, Joseph, and Mark stood hollow behind the desk. Badges dead, titles gone, and yet the full weight of consequence only beginning to land. Patricia lifted her phone. Margaret, she said, initiate a full lobby-level reform. Prepare a public statement, and promote Betty. She'll lead this property moving forward. Yes, Miss Carter, Margaret replied. Patricia ended the call and stepped forward, steady and self-contained. The marble beneath her shoes gleamed under the lobby lights, the same floor where she'd been denied minutes earlier. Now she stood centered in her own creation, unmistakably in command. Robert's stare darted from guest to guest, searching for support that wasn't there. The arrogance in his eyes had drained into disbelief. Mark's gaze locked on the open safe, its single occupant, the black card he'd confiscated, now resting in Patricia's grasp. Joseph's shoulders sagged, eyes fixed on the floor, her silence heavy with regret. No one moved. The air hummed with collective awareness. This wasn't tension anymore, it was witnessing. Something irreversible had shifted. Patricia adjusted the hem of her plain black t-shirt and faced them all. Her voice was even, every word measured. My name is Patricia, she said. I'm the founder and CEO of Horizon Hospitality Group. And as of now, I'm reclaiming this hotel from the people who abused their positions and from every excuse they used to justify it. The lobby gasped as one. Phones lowered. A man near the elevator whispered, She owns the whole company. Jacob's livestream comments flashed like sparks. CEO, unreal. Game over. Robert stumbled forward, desperate. Wait, this isn't how we do things. You're the CEO, you should have told us. There's a process, a chain of command. Patricia didn't blink. I walked in like any guest, alone, polite, without privilege. And you showed everyone exactly how your team treats those who don't fit your picture of belonging. Mark shook his head. We didn't know. We couldn't have known. You didn't need to, she replied sharply. That's the point. Betty stepped beside her, voice low but sure. I recognize the name, she admitted. When she checked in, I saw the override clearance. I knew who she was. But I waited. I should have spoken sooner. I'm sorry for that. Patricia turned to her. You did what mattered. You told the truth when it counted. That's more than anyone else here did. Effective immediately, you're being promoted to Director of Guest Services. Betty's mouth parted in shock. A few guests began clapping again, slow, steady, reverent. It wasn't applause for power, it was for fairness finally seen. Joseph's voice broke the quiet. I never meant for it to go this far, she whispered. I didn't know what to do. Patricia's gaze found hers. You had a choice, she said simply. You made your choice. Patricia said evenly. When you pressed the intercom, when you grabbed my arm, when you laughed, when you watched your coworker lock away what was mine as if I didn't matter. Her voice stayed calm, but the precision of her words cut deeper than anger ever could. Then Joseph broke. It was Robert, she cried. He told us how to treat guests who didn't fit our top-tier image. Said it was part of protecting the brand. I thought that was just company policy. Robert spun toward her, livid. That's a lie. Patricia lifted her hand, silencing them both. No, she said quietly. That's not a lie, it's a confession. From the phone in her hand, Donna's voice came steady and composed. We've logged the admission, escalating to compliance and legal immediately. A few guests nodded in approval. One woman, holding her toddler, said softly but clearly, Finally, someone's being held accountable. Jacob, still filming, turned to the camera. She didn't just fire them, he said. She dismantled the entire system in front of everyone. Mark's voice trembled. What happens to us now? You'll receive formal notice of termination, Patricia replied. Your profiles will be marked in Horizon's network. You're barred from employment at any of our properties. And if prior misconduct surfaces, we'll pursue further action. Robert stared at her, eyes hollow. All this because you wanted to prove a point? No, Patricia said, her tone like tempered steel. All this because I'm done watching people like you decide who deserves respect based on how they look. From the crowd, Sophie raised her phone. They tried to erase her, she said, and now she's rewriting the rules. Patricia stepped aside and gestured to Betty. You have the desk. Reset the check-in system. Suspend all reservations under Robert's ID. Contact affected guests and offer full compensation. Betty's hands moved quickly over the keyboard, her posture straight, confident. Turning back to the crowd, Patricia said, If any of you were mistreated here, today or before, our internal team will remain in the lobby. Direct complaint channels are open now. Every message will receive a personal response within 48 hours. No templates, no PR scripts. Real answers. For a heartbeat, silence. Then quiet agreement rippled through the room. A gray-haired man near the window tipped his hat. Thank you for not walking away, he said. Patricia's expression softened. I've walked away before, she said. Never again. Donna's voice returned over the line. Patricia, media outlets are already circulating the footage. It's trending. No tags, just reach. But the story's in your control. Patricia nodded once. Let them see it. Let them see what accountability looks like when a company acts instead of apologizing. She faced the trio one final time. You're dismissed. Security will escort you out. Your belongings will be sent to you. Do not approach any guests. Betty looked up from the monitor. Should I call building security? Patricia shook her head. No, let them walk. Let every person in this lobby see the price of unchecked behavior. And so they did. Robert, Joseph, and Mark, moving through the quiet corridor of witnesses. No one reached out. No one offered comfort. Only silence trailed them, the sound of accountability settling in. When the glass doors sealed shut behind them, the room shifted, anger dissolving into purpose. Patricia turned back to her staff and guests. This isn't the end, she said. This is where change begins. From that moment on, the Horizon Grand was no longer just a luxury address etched in stone. It became a landmark of reckoning, proof that reform had finally found its voice. The guests stayed still, the hush in the lobby thick as marble dust. They had witnessed something rare, a reckoning not hidden in a boardroom, but carried out beneath chandeliers and polished brass. Patricia, steady in her black t-shirt and jeans, didn't linger on applause or reaction. She turned to Betty, no longer a quiet concierge, but acting director of guest services. Begin the reform plan, she said. Start at the top. Betty's response was immediate. Yes, ma'am. She returned to the desk, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Within minutes, the old reservation network went dark, and the staff accounts tied to the dismissed employees blinked out one by one. System cleared, she confirmed. Patricia pulled out her phone. Margaret, she said, send an internal alert. Notify compliance, legal, and diversity operations. I want a full 18-month audit. Guest complaints, staff records, suppression logs, everything. Already underway, Margaret replied. Media's circling, but your statement's leading the story. Donna's finalizing the rollout briefing. Guests began to move toward Betty's desk. Their words came softly, hesitant but sincere. A woman clutching a printed reservation whispered, "Thank you. I didn't know if I should say anything before." Betty offered a small, reassuring smile. "You can now. We're listening." In the corner, Jacob Reed's live stream kept climbing, past 10,000 viewers. The caption read, "CEO reclaims hotel. Fires team live. Real-time reform." The comments poured in faster than he could read them. Sophie Lynn, who had been the first to hit record, finally lowered her phone. "Do you want me to keep posting?" she asked quietly. Patricia nodded. "Only the truth. Nothing else matters." Then she faced the guests again. "For years, Horizon Hospitality talked about inclusion," she said. "But talk is meaningless if bias hides behind a smile at the front desk. That ends today." She turned back to Betty. "Reschedule all staff training. Within 72 hours, everyone from concierge to management goes through independent recertification. No exceptions, no excuses." Donna's voice returned through the speaker. "Head office approves the reform plan. Local media wants a statement. You're cleared to suspend normal operations for safety and compliance." "Do it," Patricia said. "Pause bookings until we're ready. Betty, handle VIP check-ins manually. Everyone else gets redirected to our downtown partner hotel. On us for the night." Betty met her eyes and nodded. "Got it. We'll take care of them." The mood shifted again. Not tension this time, but unity. A guest offered to carry bags. Another passed out bottled water. The space that had been a stage for humiliation only an hour ago was now transforming into something else. Half crisis center, half command post. Then a sharp ping interrupted the calm. Patricia glanced at her phone, an alert from internal compliance. Her expression hardened as she read. "Robert didn't act alone," she said quietly. The lobby stilled once more. Donna's voice came through, low and urgent. "We just pulled old complaint files. Robert falsified reports to regional HQ, marked unresolved cases as closed. There are emails linking him to former regional director Ronald." Patricia's jaw tightened. Turner retired 3 months ago. HR called it health-related. But there were whispers. No one checked. Margaret joined in, her tone clipped. "He shielded Robert and Joseph. It's a pattern." Patricia closed her eyes for one long breath, then opened them again, clear and steady. "Then this isn't just about Horizon Grand," she said. "We're cleaning the system itself." Patricia's voice cut clean through the silence. "We're launching a full review across every Horizon property. Every flagged employee, every buried complaint, every falsified resolution. Nothing gets hidden again." She looked toward Jacob, who was still live. "You can film this," she said. "People need to see that rot doesn't start at the surface. It grows at the root, and we're digging it out." The crowd around her nodded. Some faces glowed with relief. Others looked stunned, unsure whether to applaud or breathe. An older woman in the front whispered, "I've waited years to see someone in charge actually do something." Sophie turned to her camera. "We came here for a vacation," she said, "and ended up watching a revolution." Patricia scanned the space around her. The marble, the gold trim, the chandeliers, once symbols of status, now felt like artifacts of a world that was already fading. "This hotel was never broken because of its design," she said softly. "It was broken because people were taught to smile at some guests and question others." Her eyes lifted. "That era ends today." 3 months later. The Horizon Grand looked the same, but felt entirely different. The marble floors still gleamed, chandeliers still sparkled, and the velvet seating still invited quiet comfort. Yet something unseen had shifted. The silence that once hummed with judgment now breathed welcome. Behind the check-in desk hung a framed portrait of Patricia, not a monument, but a reminder. Beneath it, a simple plaque read, "This space belongs to every guest, no exceptions." Guests entered without hesitation. No one was asked to prove they belonged. And behind the counter, Betty, now officially general manager, led with quiet precision. Her appointment wasn't symbolic, it was earned. Patricia's reforms rippled outward. Horizon Hospitality Group launched an audit across all 57 properties in the United States. Old complaints resurfaced, long-buried cases reopened, new equity protocols followed, rotating guest advisory boards, anonymous feedback channels, and a non-negotiable zero-tolerance policy, this time with enforcement that left a paper trail. Guests who had witnessed that day received handwritten letters. Some received calls from Patricia herself. "You stood when others turned away," one note read. "That matters." Sophie Lynn and Jacob Reed, whose live coverage ignited national attention without a single hashtag, were later invited to speak at Horizon's Leadership Summit. "We didn't plan to expose anything," Jacob told the audience. "We just didn't look away." But change, Patricia learned, has a long shadow. A week after the confrontation, she received a quiet call from a former manager in Portland, one who had worked under Robert years earlier. His voice shook with remorse. "It wasn't just him," he said. "There was an unspoken order from regional leadership, Turner's era. We were told to treat certain guests as non-priority. It wasn't written anywhere, but everyone knew." Patricia didn't raise her voice. "Thank you for telling the truth," she said, and forwarded the recording to Donna and the legal division. That message exposed the final layer of rot. The Horizon Grand incident had never been about one man's bias. It was about a system built to protect it. As word spread, other former employees stepped forward. Horizon formed an internal task force to review dismissals made under questionable terms. Some staff were reinstated, others compensated. From that point on, no hiring or firing occurred without documentation. Every new manager underwent accountability orientation, a program Patricia personally designed. "It takes more than policy to rebuild trust," she told the board. "It takes proof that silence isn't rewarded, and that truth won't cost you your job." From scandal to structure, from humiliation to healing, her leadership had transformed not just a hotel, but an entire culture. In the months that followed, the world began to see Patricia differently. Once known as a discreet billionaire who built her hospitality empire through quiet strategy and relentless drive, she was now recognized as something more, a reformer. Not because she chased headlines, but because she refused to let change stop at words. She founded a new division within Horizon, Horizon Forward, an initiative dedicated to diversity, equity, and inclusion, measured not by promises but by proof. Its mission was simple and uncompromising. No slogans, no campaigns without results. Under its first directive, Betty was appointed National Advisor for Frontline Guest Experience, a position created to ensure that the voices at the counter shaped the values at the top. At the close of Horizon Forward's inaugural summit, Patricia stood on stage beneath a minimalist banner bearing only the company's name. She looked out across a room filled with employees, guests, and advocates, people who had once been unseen. "Hospitality," she said, "doesn't begin with the smile you offer. It begins with the respect you already hold." The audience rose in unison, not to honor a CEO, but to acknowledge a woman who had once been pushed toward the door and chose instead to hold it open for everyone else. And as the applause echoed, one truth lingered in the air. Respect, once earned, must be practiced every day.